Hey, welcome everyone to the Story Trading Weekly Meetup. We got a special presentation tonight by Vegas on dark pool and money flow. We'll get to that in just a second. But first, a few housekeeping notes. Disclaimer, Story Trading is not an investment advisor. Investing in securities involves significant risk of loss. This presentation is being recorded. It'll be made available exclusively to our VIP members for the balance of the week, and then it'll be published on our social media next week. For those of you who are watching the replay on YouTube and not familiar with story trading, what is a story trade? Story trading is a practice of understanding market pricing, also known as the story behind the trade, through the lens of the four pillars of fundamentals, catalyst, sentiment, and technicals. We collaborate as a community right now and on WhatsApp and on Zoom. We're building our own app to scale the experience to a larger market. You can sign up for that app release at StoryTrading.com. You can also keep track of our upcoming events, our Spotify channel, YouTube channel, all kinds of great content over at StoryTrading.com. So story trading is based on the four pillars of sentiment, catalysts, fundamentals, and technicals. This helps us to make sense out of markets. Typically, on our Sunday nights, we'll be evaluating particular stocks through the lens of these four pillars. Tonight, as I said, we'll get into Vegas in just 1 minute. But first, I want to talk about the overall market for just a second based on these four pillars. And I want to ask the question, is the bottom in, right? So back in early November, when the talk of interest rates started coming to the forefront, a few people in our community postulated that the bottom would happen when they actually raise interest rates, kind of like sell the rumor, buy the news. So that's the catalyst pillar. We look at that, right? So, by the way, I'm not saying the bottom is in. For the record, personally, I think a bottom is in. Don't know yet if it's the bottom, but it's certainly a bottom. So through the lens of the pillar of catalyst, we can see that historically it's true. Sell the rumor, buy the news on the Fed interest rate increase. But look at technicals. Technicals, a lot of key stocks and also the major indices are either near or above key moving averages, whether it's a 50 DMA or the 200 DMA. So that's very interesting to see that last week, Thursday and Friday. So possibly another signal the bottom is in. Sentiment, I found this really interesting. I really thought the market could have gone either way last week with the with that event with interest rates, and Powell did exactly what he had to do. The only way out of this was saying, hey, we're going to raise interest rates, but we can do it because the economy is so strong and it's going to withstand the higher rates without causing a recession. And he was masterful in instilling confidence in the market. And I think that's when things really turned around. And, I think sentiment has a huge role to play in markets. So he scored, really well there with sentiment and inspiring the market, I believe. And as far as fundamentals, when you look at, earnings and PE ratios, things like that, why do we get that sell the rumor, buy the news? It's because when you're selling a rumor, by the time the event comes, you could say it's priced in, right, fundamentally. And the other thing I want to point out about the last about 3 weekly calls we had talking about the Ukraine war, I postulated that just like we had with the COVID crash, right, you had a whole sector take us out of it, which is the internet sector, and the technology sector take us out of it. In this case, you could have a whole new sector and whole new industries take us out or prevent a recession. In some ways, I think this war might actually possibly prevent a recession, because you have these, Merrill Lynch called it the FANG names. So I'm going with their acronym, but it's the same stocks we pointed out before Merrill Lynch came out with that, which is fuel, F for fuel, A for agriculture, A for aerospace, and for nuclear, G for gold. So can those industries, which are probably more so in the S&P 500 than they are in the NASDAQ, take us to new heights? Is that why we're seeing? And by the way, who rebuilds Ukraine when the war is over, right? I could see a lot of American companies, I don't know, Caterpillar, making a ton of money as they rebuild Ukraine, depending on who has possession of it. So we'll have to see. But in any case, this past week, when that decision came out, I gave the green signal in terms of kind of stock picking, right? Because individual stocks over the last few months have not really been moving on individual catalysts that much. Everything was at the mercy of the macro environment and what the major indices were doing. And this past Tuesday, I said, you know what? Now that this big news is out of the way, we can look again at specific stocks, specific catalysts and fundamentals and technicals, and perhaps get back into what story trading does best with stock picking. So I myself, I started getting back into non-war stocks last week because of that, including 2 VIP picks from our community, SMSI and REL. So with that, now that we're kind of getting back into the trading flow, I want to introduce Vegas to our community. I met her through Twitter Spaces, Wolf Financial Twitter Spaces, a bunch of great panelists on that show. I really love how she approaches stocks because she's a trader like a lot of other people over at Wolf Financial Spaces, but she's very well informed with fundamentals, sentiment, catalysts, and really, kind of exemplifies what we do at Story Trading, not necessarily by the name of the 4 pillars, but she really does that. So, we've hosted her many times on our own Twitter Spaces, and very happy to have her here today. I asked her to come in and talk about some of her tactics with trading when it comes to money flow and dark pool. She's got lots of great experience with that. And I think last week was one of her best weeks in her whole career. So wanted to invite her on. Vegas, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming by tonight. And I feel like I've been adopted by Ben from Story Trading. We do a lot of collaborations together, and really love Story Trading's pillars and the way that you guys look at stocks. And it sits very well for how I look at things, especially when I like to go long term on stocks. I really don't even look at the charts. I just look at the vision of like where this company can go. So I definitely take in consideration all the pillars. And so I think we mesh very nicely together as a team.
Awesome.
So tonight I wanted to welcome you all to a discussion on a very interesting topic called dark pool. Some people like to call it money flow. You'll hear that term very often, money flow or dark pool. And, what really is this dark pool? And, really to put it mildly, it's, first of all, it's been around a long time in some of the trading rooms. And I'm talking about like hedge fund rooms. They used to call those kind of rooms the upstairs room, where they would go and do their trades. And dark pools are really just a private exchange for trading securities that are not accessible by the investing public like us or retail traders. And, if you even check, you can even research more dark pool information on Investopedia. But it really was instituted really to facilitate block trading by institutional investors who obviously don't want to impact the markets with their large orders and then get really adverse pricing for their trades. Because you can imagine if they were to, let's say, buy Tesla, 5 million shares, what would it do to the stock? Like in real time, if they were to put it through the same channels that retail traders trade on, it would send a spike. It could halt the stock. It also is showing your cards to the market. And it's like, wow, did someone just buy this trade? Or are they dumping stock? If there was a bunch of stocks dumped at 5 million shares, it's very hard to get filled. And, they want to actually be, I guess, invisible. They want to hide their trades because, these hedge funds, they don't want to show retail what they're doing. And not only that, these institutional traders, they're all trading also against each other in a way, because if there is a dark pool trade where someone is buying Apple, for example, there has to be someone selling it as well. So there could be one fund selling Apple, another one buying Apple, or maybe they're rebalancing the books, reducing size, reducing exposure. So the thing is that, they have to have their own exchange that they can really use for them to trade. And, really all the orders are usually done by the market maker, who is obviously told, we want to get, 10 million shares of this company. And this is the most that we want to pay. And it's their job to get the order filled around the price that they're given the instructions for. And as we know, the market maker's job is to also play games. if you, on the bid ask, and the market makers are very sneaky, and their job is obviously to get the orders filled. And a lot of times dark pools can cast unfavorable light. They do allow large trades to proceed without affecting obviously the market, and there is no order book either for dark pool. So that's the other thing too, is that there is no order book to see like what's happening with the actual transactions of these stocks. So, really, to keep it simple, dark pool is kind of a private exchange that's really for the obviously the hedge funds to trade, and obviously it's private. It is not accessible by anyone in the investing public. And again, it was created to not impact the markets with their large orders. And obviously, there are, just so you know, around 59 alternative trading systems so there's 59 different dark pool exchanges with the security commissions that has been registered as of May 2021. So dark pool is very interesting. The thing is also with dark pool is that there are many different types of trades that get traded. So there's real-time trades, where a lot of times you could see the information reported in real time. Then you'll see also trades that are reported late. So they're reported usually within 24 hours. And then there's also market on close dark pools. And then there's also late sell dark pool. And you might ask, where do I find this information? Well, there's a lot of providers out there that provide options flow, like Black Box and Cheddar Flow are the ones that I'm familiar with. And they actually have a feature called dark pool. And all it does is it just reports information. So you never actually know if the information that's being reported, let's say, like I said, someone's a buy order or a sell order on Tesla, 5 million shares at a certain price. The question is, were they buying or were they selling? And that's what you have to try to figure out as a retail trader, because they're obviously anonymous and they don't want to show their cards to us, because, if we know they're buying, what do you think we're going to do? We're going to buy too. We're going to want to follow them. Maybe other institutions might follow, but they don't want to do that. They want to try to hide the cards. And so, as a retail trader, what our job is try to figure out what is it that they're really doing? So with real-time prints, those are trades that are happening right now. And if you actually, the way you'll know a real-time print is if you're watching your time and sales. And so if you saw an order of like Apple 1 million shares on your time and sales, you would be able to match the current price and say, oh yeah, it's currently trading at this price. So that was real time. So that's how you would know it's a real time dark pool. Sorry, not dark pool, a real time large print. But it's still considered, I don't want to say dark pool, but it's still, it's a real time print because it still gets reported, just so you know, on dark pool, but it comes in real time. And then the only way to know if it's in real time is if you check the stock, if it was trading at that exact price. And, one of the things that's really important to understand with dark pool and why it's really important in terms of your trading, because I used to be a trader that would just trade fundamentals, like, 200-day, 50-day, 20-day. And I would base my, trades based on that, or, new highs, new 52-week highs or resistance breaks. I would like to take those trades. But I found that by learning to engage with money flow, it does really give you an edge, because you are really, in fact, following the smart money. And the thing is that with smart money, someone always knows something. And I'm going to give you an example of that later this evening when I talk about BABA. So the other type of trade also, as I mentioned, was late prints. And that is when they're trying to hide their orders. Those are they basically will trade or purchase or buy or sell. Like I said, we don't always know what they're doing. But in the information gets reported the next day. And that's why it's called a late buy print, because you don't know the information till the next day. So as a trader, you want to follow, what is the money doing? You want to be able to identify, where would the stock be considered bullish if it went over a certain level, and where would it be considered bearish? And the reason for that is that could give you an edge into when you should get into a trade. The thing is that a lot of traders use all these indicators. They use, Elliott Wave, Fibonacci's, RSI, Wyckoff patterns, MACD, and those are all great indicators and they are helpful. But the thing to remember is that those indicators are lagging. And a lot of times if you follow money flow, you are able to, kind of stands out, and it kind of should be catching your attention to probably watch that stock a little closer. Because if you were just to even just watch with some of these dark pool prints that come in throughout the day, whether they come in late or real time, the thing is that if you see a lot of dark pool coming in, let's say for ExxonMobil, XOM, and it's all day steady, XOM, lots of prints. You're going to be like, if you weren't even following that stock, you might actually start adding it on your watch list, because you're going to be thinking, what's going on here? There's a lot of action on the dark pool where these, fat cats, hedge fund people are doing something with the stock. And so it's going to help also highlight things that are going to have a move. And, the thing with dark pool, a lot of times there's some phenomenal money to be made. But the thing is, you have to time your entry. And that's why it's a great edge to have as part of your trading arsenal, and not just to be like a technical trader. It's always good to be outside the box and add something different, like following money flow, because it does make a difference in your trading game. And I'll give you an example. I didn't really see a lot of dark pool flow on BABA per se last week, but I was watching BABA because I did see an unusual option trade not this past Friday, the 18th, but the Friday before, which was March 11th. And I noticed an unusual option flow trade. And when I looked at the option, it was a $100 call expiring March 18, and it was on the options flow. And when I looked it up, it was at the time going for about 79 cents for one contract. And earlier in the day, though, it was around $1.80. So I thought to myself, wow, this has come down 50% practically since the high, or shy of 50%. I'm going to take a option trade on this as a starter, and I guess we'll see what happens next week. So I thought, this is exciting. I'm going to take a stab at this. So initially, to be honest, I only took 5 contracts, very small size. And the following Monday, when the market opened, those contracts were down to 35 cents. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm already down 50%, more than 50%. And the day's not even started. What a great way to start my day, red. So I took advantage of the pullback. I looked at the chart and I said, it's a really broken down chart. BABA has been red for such a long time. There has to be some sort of reversal coming. So I added some more throughout the day on the Monday. And then I did the same thing on Tuesday, and it was super cheap on Tuesday. I think it went down to 28 cents. And then it actually went down, honestly, I think it went down as low as 4 cents. And you could think this is crazy, but one thing I noticed is that at one time the option contract pulled back to 4 cents, but the stock was going down and the option was going down, but then all of a sudden it started going up again to like around 11 cents. And I thought, this is really strange because the price of the stock was not really going up, but the option contract value was. So I thought, how come the option's going up, but the stock's not? So I had a feeling, it was kind of like a little bit of my intuition as well. And not to say, some people consider themselves a gut trader. I'm definitely not a gut trader, but I just saw some weird action on the time and sales tape. And I kind of felt that they were buying the dips on BABA. And I was watching like a lot of size being bought, like 5,000, 10,000, 10,000, 20,000. And I thought, that's adding up. Like, this is like real time action happening. And this is supposed to be like a beaten down stock. They were actually buying at certain times I saw above ask. And I thought, wow, they really want the stock. So took the trade. I ended up getting a slew of contracts, loaded up. And I thought, you know what? It's either going to make it or break it, but they were so cheap. And knowing that I paid 79 cents and thought, wow, they went down this cheap. Maybe there was an opportunity here. So I was able to seize the moment. I shared it with, other traders, shared it in my room. And then honestly did not think anything of it. Went to bed, woke up the next day, found out that China had gapped up massively overnight due to the, commentary of them wanting to support the capital markets of China. And there was a major, obviously, run in the China stocks on Thursday and on Wednesday. And those contracts I had that were, my average was actually 20 cents and they went all the way to like $8.30 the next day. So I was able to sold a big chunk and sold most of them all basically that same day because the profits was just too incredible to leave on the table. But I will tell you, those same contracts went to over $11.30 on Friday. So it was a great risk reward, but the point of this explaining the story was really just to watch the money flow, because the money flow is not just always dark pool. It's also, I do like to watch the time and sales on real time. And when you look at the size, which is the volume of the shares they're buying, that is really helpful too, to watch those kind of signs to see if there's a sort of pattern action going on with regards to the stock. So, dark pools also very sneaky and, they like to hide their prints. And you know what? You have to remember, the China news, those fat cats, in my opinion, they were buying BABA, I believe, all week, last week, Monday and Tuesday. And, the market, in my opinion, is very rigged. I think a lot of these hedge fund guys, like, they know information. I don't know how they get it, but they know people, they have connections, they know information, and they use it to their advantage. So, for them to be loading BABA, even though they weren't, they were doing it on the tape, okay, and there was also dark pool prints on BABA, just so you know, on Thursday morning, pre-market, huge order of BABA came in, huge. They were loading because they knew they were going to run the stock. And so on Thursday morning, I had mentioned that, and I did put it also on my Twitter feed, that if BABA was to break 103.50, there would be a serious fireworks. And also, probably BABA had a lot of shorts that were shorting the stock. So probably like a good short trap too, a short squeeze opportunity. And what happened is on Thursday, it never broke 103.50. And keep in mind, we had a really good run the day before. And so 103.50 never happened. And what I did Thursday morning, because I was all out of BABA, I had sold everything on Wednesday, I went back in and I took advantage of there was like a bit of a flush that happened on BABA, like it pulled back. It never broke 103.50 the whole day, never broke. And I still took a trade on the 103 calls because that was kind of the ones I wanted to get in case it would break 103.50. I wanted to be in the money. And I will say this, the trade went down. It did not, it broke down, didn't go below the levels, but the bear levels, but it did stay, it did, try to break 103.50, but it did not have any success. And what ended up happening is I kept the trade. My room was in the red, like we were all red on this trade. And I did explain that I'm holding it because I felt that they did not break down, the stock didn't break down, it had support. And I felt it had support like around 101, 102 when I kept charting it all day. And the whole day I was watching the actual time in sales. And, to be able to watch something all day is takes a lot of concentration, but it was worth it because I was able to hold the trade. And that was another successful, massive payday on Friday for myself and for other traders because we were able to, let's say, look at the action on the time and sales, and had nothing to do with the chart. Because if you look at the chart, it was not very pretty at all. So someone that's a technical trader would probably not touch BABA and say this is junk. But if you actually not do that and look at other angles and time and sales and size, it gives you an edge. And that gave me a big edge this week. And like BABA was massively responsible for me making very good money even on Friday, because I had some dark pool information on Thursday morning that although the trade didn't break 103.50, guess what it did Friday? It broke 103.50. And so even though it didn't break it Thursday like it should have, the buying pressure didn't succumb to itself, but it did do it Friday. So one thing to do if you like to look at money flow, is just because you're expecting a level to break today and it doesn't happen, and you see dark pool or money flow coming onto a stock, you should still track it and keep your eyes on it even the next day, because sometimes it takes time for that action to trigger. So, if I would have taken my eyes off it on Friday, there's no way that I would have been able to bank on this, because the high of day on Thursday was only 101.89, and I actually thought it was going to break 102, and it never did. But you know what? It did it on Friday, and it went all the way to 111.74. So I was able to, bank on it, and I shared some ideas in real time on a Twitter space I was on, and even on my Twitter feed. And I was happy that people made money. But really, the reason that I was able to make the money was because I followed the money flow and the dark pool. So, like I said, I wasn't following the charts. And if I was, I would never have traded the stock. So dark pool can give you a big edge in the market.
Fascinating. Can I ask you a few questions about that?
Sure.
What's the proximity usually of when you see the big money flow coming in with the dark pool orders? How soon after that do you see the stock moving, and kind of like what percent of the time is there some sort of catalyst after the fact that would, looking back, to justify it, meaning they knew something, right? Some big deal was announced or earnings were great.
Exactly.
Or is it simply because there's people like you following that money flow and that's what causes the momentum the next day?
No, I think there's really an important thing to keep in mind in order to capitalize on these dark pool prints or these unusual prints or large prints. I think that a lot of people might say to you, "Oh, you can't make money off that." They think that how are you gonna make money on that? You have to. I think the best way is to, when you see these large prints, it's gonna take time. Like sometimes the move won't happen for I would say within 4 weeks, there should be some action either to the upside or the downside. Now, surprisingly, sometimes the action, shockingly, will happen the same week. Okay, and I'll give you some ideas for this week that I will share with StoryTrading tonight for some, potential stocks to watch for this week. But I will say usually it happens. The action on the stock happens within anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks is really the timeline. So if, let's say, I was going to trade, I'm going to give you an example, PayPal. There's been a lot of good volume on PayPal. We took a swing trade on PayPal because we saw a lot of dark pool activity on PayPal. And, PayPal can also be correlated to Bitcoin. So I'm wondering if there's going to be any action on Bitcoin. But with PayPal in particular, we did see a lot of dark pool prints. And the chart was looking to set up here. Like the chart's looking really good. And with PayPal, I mean, you could see here it closed, well, it closed after hours, but PayPal on Friday had a really good day. And it looks like it has a continuation. I mean, if you look at the volume, forget about Friday because it's quad witching, but I mean, Thursday, huge volume day. I mean, I will say PayPal's had the biggest volume on Friday. That's the highest volume I have seen on PayPal since February 25. So when you see volume like that, you have to pay attention. The volume was pretty big Friday, I know, because it's quad witching. But nevertheless, definitely have to watch PayPal, especially over 118.75. It has a lot of room, maybe like a $9 move coming to the upside, based also on dark pool prints that have been coming in. So, it looks to me that, they're interested in having PayPal in the portfolios. Is there going to be news on PayPal? That I can't tell you because I don't know, right? But that is one way to know is there going to be news on PayPal. I mean, it's on a new uptrend, the actual stock. The buying has been kind of relentless, I think, over the last 3 weeks. So definitely, we'll see tomorrow or this week, can PayPal hold up over 118.75? I mean, it can pull back, but I mean, it would not be bearish unless it went under 105. So definitely these are like a good level to watch to see if there's going to be action. And again, like I said, you never know if there's news, but you see what you have to remember with the money flow is that the print comes first and the news comes later. If you recall, remember at one time there was news, was it with Pinterest and what was that other company that was was there a company looking to buy Pinterest? I think there was that other company with Pinterest, and there was a lot of dark pool on Pinterest. And then all of a sudden there was like an announcement of a potential buyout for Pinterest. And then, the deal fell through. But nevertheless, these people must have known that there was going to be some sort of announcement. And that's why there was action on the money flow. There was that buyout rumors. And you know what they say? It was PayPal. PayPal was apparently looking to buy Pinterest. They wanted to acquire Pinterest at around $70 a share. And it turned out that they were decided that they're not interested in buying the company. And they said that that was just market rumors and that they are not pursuing an acquisition. But people are saying that that's not true, and that there was some discussions around that, and that's why there was action on the actual stock. But maybe it turns out that they changed their mind. But it seems like that the rumor, it was kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news. So that's just like one example I can remember. Also, sometimes you can notice, not to say always with earnings, but like sometimes you'll notice like large dark pool prints on certain companies, like Snapchat has had in the past, like nothing lately, but and then maybe there was going to be like some strong earnings, and then all of a sudden the earnings was spectacular for Snapchat, and then there was dark pool prints before the earnings. So did they know? And it seems like obviously they know. So it's good to just monitor or keep your eyes on money flow, because it can also be a sentiment in the direction of what the stock might be doing. So definitely, something to just add to your trading arsenal really is to watch the dark pool. And I'll be happy to share some ideas with you guys tonight, that even if you're not going to trade these, because these are just, I'm just sharing content. No one has, you don't have to buy or anything like that. And I'm not in
So
any of these stocks myself
look,
either, but I'm just
let's
saying that if you watch them, it'll be interesting to watch the action if they break those levels that I'll be talking about tonight.
okay. So we'll get to those in just a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to get, because it's real interesting, that question about how
Mhm.
often the timeline's great, 1 to 4 weeks. But when I trade with the story trading four
Mhm.
pillars, I can't have conviction as me personally, and I don't know about the people in our community, but it's hard for me to have conviction in a trade if I don't feel good about the fundamentals or the upcoming catalyst. I could see a way in which I would want to trade this as, hey, here's a stock, X, Y, and Z stock. I like the fundamentals. I think there's some big event that's going to happen. Now, I'm banking on some uh, big, product launch or possible acquisition, or there's some catalyst I know is out there and I'm waiting for the timing, right? And
Mhm.
then, hey, Vegas, you tell me, hey, Ben, look, the dark pool's coming in for that stock. And I'm like, aha, now I can connect the dots. Now that dark pool maybe is indicative of some people knowing some inside information or whatever it is. And that catalyst is going to come in the next 1 to 4 weeks. That's the way that I would incorporate it personally in a holistic kind of way, because, I'm not going to make a trade purely on the dark pool. So just I want to pin you down a little bit more in your experience when you see those big dark pools. The price movement's happening in 1 to 4 weeks, but is there something real happening in are these people just manipulating the market with their big dark pools and they're just moving price action around the next 1 to 4 weeks? Or is it because there's something fundamentally going to improve in 1 to 4 weeks, a big, catalyst or earnings going to happen, in 1 to 4 weeks? Which of those two do you think it is?
Uh, sometimes sometimes it's because there is a catalyst and there is news that comes out from the company. So, clearly someone must have known something that they were, loading the boat, as they say. And obviously, they're banking. That's what they want to do. Someone always knows something. I mean, the thing is that what's really key is volume. We all know that, you know, money can move the stock and so can a catalyst, but really I really like to focus also on volume. Sometimes a high volume candle costs to, can fake you out. And so, volume really is the bottom line. It doesn't matter what strategy you're using. If there's high volume, you have to pay attention. I mean, there's a lot of a lot of people like to look at different candlesticks. But it's really important, I think, is Japanese candlesticks are really interesting. And I think that is a good way, a nice way to look at stocks is to look at those kind of candlesticks, is the Japanese candlesticks, because there's usually an interesting story behind a lot of the patterns on the candlesticks. And, the thing is that you always want to, when the stocks have a big wick, I mean, people look at the candlesticks. I mean, you don't want to short a stock with a big wick on the, and on the bottom, because then we know that obviously the buyers are coming in at the end of the day. And, you want to watch, obviously, different candles. Sometimes the candles are very indecisive, right? And there's also stories behind the candles, okay? Because it's always a battle between the bears and the bulls. And, you have to make sure that when you look at these candles, I always like to look at the different wicks, because the different wicks and they have, each candle has a different wick, a different tail, and sometimes they can close pretty much, close pretty close to where it opened. But the thing is, the difference with the candle patterns does show the difference between the buyers and sellers, but the shadows or wicks tell a different story. And so it's very important to look at the different wicks, because there's so many. I mean, there's the dragonfly, the gravestone, the long leg doji, the high volume doji, which is one of my favorites actually, because that's really like a tug of war between bulls and bears, where kind of no one's really sure who's going to win, because a lot of times that closes unchanged, and you have to wait sometimes a couple days to see if the candle can close above the high or below the low of that, of that stock. And if it closes above, then obviously it's bullish, below is bearish. So, we want to see sometimes what's called, you want to kind of eliminate the noise And so what you have to watch is how it and where it closes. So that's really important. Like the candles and dojis also tell you a story. And a lot of people don't look at that.
Yeah,
A lot might do. A lot might do. I'm not going to say they don't, but I mean, I know a lot of traders that they don't really look at, they don't analyze the candles like that. But you know, that's, I'm not saying that they don't. There's a lot that do. I'm saying some of the ones I've talked to don't really look at that.
Yeah, no, I always like to say that technicals are indicative of the fundamentals and the catalyst and the sentiment that's driving that, right? Like you said, it's a battle between bulls and bears, and there's actually real reasons. I would like to think maybe at times it's just pure price manipulation, but for the most part, I would like to think that these are real philosophical battles between bears and bulls that have different perspectives on the fundamentals, catalyst, and sentiment, and you can kind of pick up on that to some extent by looking at the technical action. So just a couple other quick questions. With the dark pools, what's like the minimum market cap that these hedge funds would, use these 59 dark pool exchanges for? Do you notice like a minimum there?
No, I'm not even aware if there's a market cap minimum. I don't think that's, I mean, I've seen even actually, I've actually seen some penny stocks trade in the dark pool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
that'd be
have.
real
Yeah.
interesting.
Like when I say penny stocks, like I'm not talking stocks that are like under $1. I'm referring to stocks under $10. I have seen them on the dark pool. Not super often, but I have seen sometimes some penny stocks that have showed up, like stocks under $10 have showed up on the dark pool. And I'm just trying to any of them this week. Like
Okay.
one of them, okay, so one of them that was interesting was this stock called ET. And that one there is like a little over it's the energy transfer, right? ET. And you can see it's under $10. And there was dark pool activity there this week. And that's interesting because people are watching energy stocks as well. But that one there did show up on the dark pool. And if it was to break $10.50, then you can anticipate a potential move to the upside. Not a huge move, maybe like 50 cents to 75 cents to the upside. And if it went below $9.60 where the support would break, but also maybe they're selling some of this. If it did go under there, you'd see a small move to the downside, like maybe towards $9. But sometimes we do see stocks under $10 on the money flow, depending what it is, but not regularly. Mostly it's like mid cap, large cap. Usually I see a lot of like the common ones every week. Like Facebook, Apple, gold, like your GLDs. Lately we've been seeing lots of like Exxon Mobil, we like the oil plays. Seeing a lot of social media stocks lately, like Twitter, and I'm wondering what's going on because we know Truth Social DWAC is being launching within the next week or so, going live, and I'm just wondering if, as a result of Truth Social going live, what's going to happen with the Twitter stock? Is Twitter going to actually pull back, or is Twitter going to go up as what they say, like a sympathy play to DWAC? So there was some dark pool on Twitter. So that'll be interesting because to me, it's like a sympathy to DWAC, but will Twitter pull back because of DWAC going up? Remains to be seen. Or will Twitter go up in conjunction as a sympathy play? And we know the Twitter stock is much cheaper than DWAC. So, if that was their buying or selling remains to be seen. So I'm definitely going to be watching the level of like $38.50 on Twitter. So if it was to break that level, then you can anticipate a move to the upside. And you could see when it closed on Friday, it closed pretty strong, around $37.77. So we'll definitely see how Twitter behaves this week. And, it doesn't have to be good this week. Will it be good maybe next week? Like sometimes, the move may not happen this week, but it'll be interesting to see if it breaks 38.50. So if it does, watch that stock and see what it's going to do. So if it does, you'll see the action to the upside if it breaks 38.50.
Okay. All right, two more. I keep coming up with new questions.
Sure.
So first of all, is like when you talk about like you have the dark pool trade and you have, is it a buy or sell, right? And you said you don't really know unless you see the price action after the fact. But what does that mean? I have a thesis what it means. Tell me if I'm right, because there's always a buyer and seller. But is the difference, let's say, if some hedge fund calls up the market maker and says, hey, I want to buy 40 million shares of this. We know there's a seller on the other side, but is it possible when we say it's a buy, it's because the market maker is maybe collecting 40 million shares on the open market from retail, right? So the market makers are maybe manipulating market, causing it to go down, create like retail, right? They collect the 40 million shares and then hand it over to like Goldman Sachs or whoever's buying it. So that's what you call a buy. So it's like one buyer, but it's many multiple sellers to fulfill that buyer. And that's what you would mean when you say it's a buy. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what these are, it's, part of the equation is for sure. I mean, obviously they're going to have to get the shares from somewhere. So either they're getting it from another fund or they're getting it from retail. I mean, listen, a lot of people get shaken out, right? You see the stock going down, you're in the stock. And I'll give an example. I mean, I was shaken out of Facebook. I had Facebook and I had to take a loss on Facebook. I actually had the option contracts that would have expired this past Friday. But, Facebook went below 196 and I had to get out of it went below 200. Sorry. I had to get out of the trade. And then look what it did Friday. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so I did get shaken out. And I'm sure that when it did go down, I'm sure they were collecting stock and, I'm sure they banked big on Friday. So, yes, they know how to play the game. It is, like I said, they're very manipulative. And if people think that the market's not rigged, it is rigged. So, it's not a surprise.
So, I want to ask you about couple specific stocks here that you're familiar with. I've been talking to you about from the story trading community. One of them is Mosaic, MOS. The other one is Zim, but ZIM, the shipping company. But if we could focus on MOS, because you mentioned to me there was some dark pool activity last week or so. And let me share my screen. And the reason I asked, because this is where I get really interested in it, is because we're looking at Mosaic from a catalyst perspective, a fundamental perspective, a sentiment perspective, right? With potash not coming out of Russia and the fundamentals of these businesses being good. But, there's a bull and bear thesis out there, right? So I want to have a little bit of edge. Let's say we're not sure, who's going to win this bull and bear thesis as they figure out, is this a good investment long-term or not? So do you see any evidence in the dark pool either way, let's say for a Mosaic right now, that might push this over? Because you could see on the chart, it's kind of at a critical level. It's like a triple top right here. So do you see any clues that might give you an edge? Is this going to break up or break down?
Well, you remember you had a really good high here of 63.44 back on March 11. So, I would say that if I was, and the volume's been really pretty good, still pretty steady. And I will say also, as I'm talking to you, I am checking on Chatter Flow. There was dark pool on Mosaic last week. And one of the prints that stands out, I mean, there was an after hours print on March 18. I mean, there was a lot of prints March 18. I know,
that's actually why I asked you about it. I saw huge volume after the close.
There was a huge one pre-market, like 1.4 million shares. That one stands out the most. And, the level where apparently, the spot is apparently like maybe the area of interest where they were, let's say, getting filled potentially around 61.10. Now, were they selling it at 61.10 or buying it at 61.10? Like, this is what we don't know. So really the way to know is to look at the previous resistance levels and then wait and see if the stock is trading above this like 61.08 spot that's been marked on the dark pool print. So if you look at like what you said, 63.44 March 11 was the high. So it'd probably be safe to say that if it broke that and went above 64, I would say that, even if it went, maybe even say for over 65, because March 7, you had a high of 64.71. So probably if this breaks $65, this actual stock, then I would be comfortable in saying that that was probably a buy on Mosaic, on the pre-market 1.4 million shares. But I would want to see $65. So, I'm not in this stock or anything, but if I was looking to trade this, because it's also been very profit, a lot of people have made good money on this. And so now that they've made good money, are they still holding? Are they looking at, sell and take profits? People want to take profits too. So one way to feel comfortable for me is, I like to wait for you always like to wait for the trades to come to you. But I mean, if you even look at the Mosaic's chart, I mean, there's been so much range contraction, and it's been going on like this, honestly, for days, like weeks, the whole week, last week. It's showing to me, to be honest, like it shows me that this stock wants to break out, like it's itching, and it's just like waiting for just waiting for it. So I'm not in this stock, but I can see on the weekly that's a gorgeous chart. It's a beautiful chart. And I would, because of this dark pool print and the previous resistances, I would want to see $65 break. And then I would be like comfortable taking a position in the stock. Or, with the chart looking so amazing, I mean, even having a small starter for me and then adding on the way up. Because for me, it's not an investment. It's just, let's say it would be just a short-term swing for me. But I mean, the dark pool is a great tool because you could see that there's interest in the stock. And what you have to keep in mind when you see a print like this, that's commitment. Like, who's going to commit that kind of money? Like 1.4 million shares is $84.7 million. That's a commitment. Whoever is buying is committed to the stock. So when you see a commitment, it's a high degree of commitment. You're looking for the stock to go in the direction that you want, which is up. Now, obviously, if it doesn't do that, then, were they selling, and we're not going to know that unless it starts having, lows of day coming in here and the support gets broken to the downside, so I think if the stock went below, maybe below 52.90, I'd be like, maybe that was a sell. So, maybe under $53 even. But as so for now, I don't feel like it's a sell. But I have to just keep watching it and then wait to see what happens, because even if I wasn't trading Mosaics, that print stands out because it's an unusual size. And Mosaics, when I look at the dark pool for the whole week, normally they buy like a few 100,000, like 459,000, 177,000, 100,000. Like they're buying like, 10 million, 20 million, 28 million. But when someone went out there and pre-market, by the way, like right at the open, like at 9:32, that's big money. And that was a big size. So that one would make me like keep it on my radar because it just stands out. So let's say someone like, to your point, even if I wasn't trading Mosaics and I like to follow money flow, this would catch my attention and go, wow, this is an interesting door pool. Let me look at the weekly. And they're like, oh, wow, that's a nice chart as a bonus. That's a nice chart because I told you dark pool, sometimes the charts may look ugly. And then suddenly there's a move that comes with the stock. So it's not always based on, the charts don't always affect the direction of the stock in terms of the dark pool.
I know we're running overtime. Why don't you humor us 1 second? If you can look in your Cheddar Flow or whatever you use, black box. I wonder if there's any data there, because a lot of people will be interested on a little tiny microcap company called SMSI. You've heard of it, I think.
I've traded SMSI in the past, the stock. I don't have any more. No, there is no dark pool on SMSI. But let me check if there was anything from since March 1st up to now. Let me check. SMSI. So I'm using Cheddarflow to do the search. And so the only thing, there's no dark pool, but the only thing I did see was that they have been buying the options, and there was some block trades on SMSI, and they've been buying leaps actually on SMSI, $2 strike for January 19, 2024. So, when you see leaps also, or option aggressive trades, I mean, this was not so aggressive because it's not such a huge size. There was only $35,000 in premium, but I mean, I'm just looking at the month of March. I mean, I haven't gone further back. Like I could go back as far as let me look at like from January 3rd until Friday. I will say this for sure. Anyone that's buying SMSI options, they are not buying weeklies. They are not buying monthlies. They're buying leaps. So, I guess, maybe they know that it's going to take time for SMSI to head in the direction that they're looking for.
That matches up with some of the fundamentals we're looking at. Cool.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
They're buying leaps. Yeah.
So sorry to take this long, but there were a few
No.
stocks you wanted to mention. I don't know if Twitter was one of them, but anything else in terms of this particular trade ideas for this week?
What? So you guys, I know I mentioned Exxon. Okay, so keep a watch on Exxon Mobil. If it breaks $81, a move to the upside, and bearish, a move to the downside under 77.50. So these are just levels just to keep in mind. I kind of want to look at a juicy trade, like something that could have a big move that you guys should be watching this week. So we should definitely be looking at Honeywell, HON, and that's had a really interesting move. My room has a swing trade on Honeywell for April 14 options. And I will tell you this interesting chart, like it kind of looks like it's on a new uptrend, but there has been dark pool activity. So keep a watch. If this breaks $197.50, there should be a move to the upside, and the stop loss would be under 185. And if it goes under 185, then it could become bearish. So that would be, if I was going to buy the stock, that would be like my stop loss. But
I think I've seen Honeywell come up in a defense. Are they a defense company? I had a PPA. I think they've been getting a bid because of the war.
Yeah, well, definitely. There's been some interesting flow on Honeywell as well. And I mean, Honeywell, big company, obviously they're in the machinery, right? And, the thing is to note, I mean, you may think the float's big. I mean, 684 million, but, keep in mind that the institution, this is very important to look at as part of your story trading, or even when you're trading dark pool. I'd love to look at institutional ownership, and the institution owns 75% of this float. So to be honest, this is a low float. Okay. They own 75% of 684 million. So that's like not a lot of shares left. I mean, there's obviously a lot, but I mean, only 25% of the float's available. So you can do the math and see that the float's not massive. And so it doesn't take much, let's say, to make this go. So if this can break, as I mentioned, that 197.50, and even if you're not even as for those of you listening tonight, put Honeywell on your watch list and make a note, set up an alert over 197.50 to watch the stock. And all I ask is that you just watch what happens to the stock when that breaks, and see, just observe what happens, and then you'll find it extremely fascinating if you see the action move to the upside. And it takes time for it to go where it's going to go. Could probably see on this stock $210 or more, maybe even $215. So if this breaks, I mean, this could be a really juicy trade. But just observe the activity, and see, watch what happens. But I mean, if it breaks 185, I mean, it could move down $10 pretty cool, in no time.
Well, PE 24, 2% dividend yield on that, and it does come up in the aerospace ETFs. It's getting a bid because of the war. So
yeah, no, this is more into industry machinery, right? So Honeywell, they're in aerospace and, chemicals and materials. They're in healthcare, and they're obviously in industrial and manufacturing. So, you guys know their products, what they do. And
Great. So it's
yeah.
Honeywell. I like that chart, man. It's a good chart.
Love the chart. Love the chart. Me too.
Honeywell, ExxonMobil, and Twitter were the ones to watch.
I like to look at, like, I'm trying to give you, like, look at some juicy ones. So really, Honeywell's one of my first choices. Let me see Twitter. Yes, keep a watch on Twitter over 38.50 for it to go up, and probably head towards 45, and stop loss under 32.50, because under 32.50 would be bearish. And really the last one, let's talk about I forgot, I have your MOS here on watch. So we talked about MOS, which is, your trade. Watch this, what happens if it breaks 62.50. So StoryTrading team, make a note that if this goes over 62.50, watch what happens to the stock. And so if it does break, this could go towards, 63.75, maybe 65. Definitely not bearish unless it went under $56. So meaning that even if it goes, if it's, you're in the trade and it breaks 62.50, you're in the trade, and then it pulls back, I mean, it's definitely not bearish unless it went under 56. So it's quite a lot of room there, but yes, it is on here for a watch. So definitely. And one last one to watch is, oh my gosh, Lockheed Martin looks amazing.
I have that one too.
Do you have that one?
I bought options. I have options. Yeah. I do. I have that in my IRA.
Yeah,
as part of the whole
because you mentioned it to me. You mentioned it to me last time when we did our story trading.
Yeah.
And so I had on my list, and funny enough, I'm glad you mentioned it. So shout out to you for this one, because guess what? We've had Dark Pool on this one. Nice. So maybe somebody was listening to your story trading and could have been a hedge fund listening. But watch this level here of 437.50. So if this breaks 437.50, okay, watch and see what happens to the stock. You'll see a move to the upside, and bearish under 415. However, if it breaks 437.50, could be some serious fireworks, like I'm anticipating like a $20 move on the stock if it breaks 437.50. So to me, like, I love calling those ones like juicy trading, because those setups, like, you want to go into trades that have a big move coming, and this has, poised for a move. I'm also going to be watching like bank stocks, because we know with the interest rates going up, I mean, those are the ones that are going to benefit. Banks are going to make money. So bank stocks, like JPMs and Citibank and Bank of America, I mean, those should be on watch as well. And last but not least, I'll mention Tesla, because we know Tesla, everyone loves trading Tesla because it's so volatile. Do you ever trade Tesla, Ben?
No, I know I don't. Oh, once many years ago.
I took an option trade on Thursday, and then I was sold it the same day. I bought it for $6.25, and I sold it for like $12.
It's like sky blue above this level, isn't it?
I doubled my money. Can I just tell you that stupid option went to like $3,000 on Friday? I sold it for $12 and it went to $31. I'm like, what? But Tesla chart looks amazing. Like, it's pocket pivot, like it's closed over the 50-day. So it's really good to watch with Tesla, because we know Tesla can move. So if this breaks 907.50, which who knows, it could break tomorrow, 907.50, or any day this week. You guys might think I'm nuts, but like, honestly, this can go to like $1,000. So I'm looking for like a really big move on Tesla. But if it, I don't want to see it going under 100. So still love the look of this Tesla.
Yeah, I love those setups. I definitely won't disagree with that 1,000. But I think I love I use the DMAs 2050, 200 a lot. And if there's one of my rules of thumb is, if there's no major DMA above the one that's about to break, I call that sky blue, right? This is, to me, this is like sky blue.
Skies, where it just goes and goes.
That's it. You break the 50, there's no immediate resistance from the 20 or the 200. This is sky blue till it could thousands of the next obvious resistance level there.
Sure.
Yeah. So
So some really
at
good
Meta.
examples, so even, for those of you listening, as I mentioned, like, just make sure, so is to watch those levels, even if as an experiment, you're not in the trades, that's fine. Doesn't matter to me because I have no position in anything I've mentioned tonight. Only one I have is the swing on Honeywell swing trade. But otherwise, I have no position on anything I've mentioned. So just monitor those levels I mentioned. But I just want to mention too that what's really important with dark pool or these money flow setups is that you definitely have to monitor pre-market volume, because a lot of times you want to be able to see like what is going on before the bell. And most people are not aware that the market, obviously, we know the market obviously is trading, but not all stocks trade pre-market. And the thing is that the big guys are already giving us clues what stocks are going to be hot that day by trading them before the market opens. So, I do watch on Chutterflow, and I do, because they have the dark pool data that they do that filters in. I do watch it every morning pre-market because I like to see what is going on in dark pool pre-market. And so, I use it as a dark pool software. So I could see what the heck's going on. And what I look for is that there's at least 100,000 shares traded before the market has even opened on the actual stock. So, that can give you a signal that there's some interest in the actual stock. And, pre-market momentum is really important because a lot of times it's a sign of what they're interested in trading it today. And so, very important, even tomorrow as an experiment, look at stocks with over 100,000 volume. And especially if you have like a, subscription to Cheddar. And, if you guys want to try Cheddar, I can share a link. You guys, it doesn't matter if you try it or not. I don't care. They have a free trial though. You can try it out if you wanted, only if you wanted to just even try it and not subscribe. You could even just try it just to look at the dark pool for a full week. And then after, you can just cancel. You don't have to subscribe. If you like it, of course, subscribe. But gives you the chance to check out some software, some dark pool software, and it's very cool. So I can happy to share the link with you, Ben, if you want to share it with your community.
Sure.
Just even to try it out and see, because it's so interesting to look at the pre-market dark pool. So I love watching it in the morning pre-market. And I love also looking at stocks that have trading with the trend, looking at things that are trading with the trend. So is the trend up, and the trend increases significantly, and we want to focus on the big picture and focus on the daily chart to find the trend. So people like to look at the 8 EMA, and they like to look at that on the daily because those have bullish momentum, and a lot of traders like to ride that momentum up the chart. And the 8 EMA on the daily helps with that. But definitely, like, pre-market dark pool is interesting, especially if there's over 100,000 shares before 9:30. That is like sometimes a stock to watch on your watch list. So
Hey, does that dark pool volume show up on the regular volume here that retail has access to on the broker apps?
No.
Doesn't. Wow. Okay.
No, because your broker platform probably could show, I don't know, like what, like the dark pool, normally it's a separate feed. And so usually like software companies like Cheddar and Blackbox, they have, I guess they pay a fee to get that data. And so, and the fees are not cheap either. So it's just better to get a subscription with them, and then you can see the dark pool. But yeah, I'm happy to give you guys a link. You can check it out even the whole week as an experiment, just to see like, wow, this is really cool. And it catches your attention, like I said, if you're not watching a certain stock and then you're like, holy crap, I was looking at the dark pool and I saw like this huge huge fat cat come in here and buy, like $50 million of this one stock. You're going to start watching that stock, and listen, you can make money. We know you can make money on the bull side, but you can also make very quick, good money on the downside. So never be shy to trade puts or, short the stock if you're comfortable. A lot of people are not comfortable shorting stocks. But I'm definitely very comfortable. Like, I'm not good at shorting stocks, but I'm pretty good at buying puts. Because you know what? You can make money really fast on puts, especially if you can catch the channel on the way down. And the beauty with puts, especially with these dark pools, if you hit the bear zone, I mean, this is like an elevator down. When you're going on calls and option land, I mean, you are climbing upstairs and it takes longer to climb stairs. But if you take the elevator on puts, I mean, you could reach the bottom really fast, and you can make
Interesting.
very good money fast when you're in puts. Like, puts pay faster than calls. So sometimes when the market has its like red day, and you can find a channel. I hate trading when it's choppy. I mean, it's tough. It's only okay for scalping. But I hate scalping. But if it's bearish and you have a channel, it's like, you know what, puts for the day, and then you can make good money even when the market's red. So you know what they say, when the market's red, we try to be green. So you got to make money on the bear side.
All right.
So always
Sounds good,
opportunities.
Vegas.
Yeah.
We're running late. We're gonna actually hang on
Okay.
for a few more minutes,
Yeah,
if
sure.
you want to, with our VIPs.
Sure,
But
sure.
we're gonna end the recording here. So if you're watching
Okay.
on social media, you can follow us on YouTube and on Twitter, and you can follow Vegas at, what is it? ILuvStocks1 on Twitter.
Yeah, ILuvStocks1. You can follow me on Twitter. Sometimes I do post ideas. You're welcome to check it out, or I'll be on it sometimes a Twitter Space event, so you can catch me there too. So happy to reach out.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and for the VIPs, hang tight. We'll review a few more stocks.